5, 4, 3, 2.
I know you see.
Okay, episode 10.
Yes, episode 10 of Grief Uncensored, you guys.
I can't believe.
Yeah, we're at the big 1-0.
I just can't believe that we've been sitting here for 10 weeks straight.
11 or 12 weeks because we took 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
Yeah, 12 weeks.
And like all the planning before that.
Yeah, true. So like a good 14 weeks.
Yeah.
We put into this podcast the whole new year since January.
Yeah, it has been since the new year. I just can't believe that every single week I don't know, sometimes I still have imposter syndrome about having this podcast because I'm like talking about, like I'm not here, neither of us, to like educate or like be like a grief therapist. Like we kind of just sit and talk about like us and our experience and then stuff that we've like maybe learned.
Yeah.
But like other than that, you know, it's all very like
it's just a great
whatever comes to the mind.
Yeah,
kinda.
and also it's just like once we didn't have that therapy group called Living with Loss with SCSU, it's really just like a place for us to have where we can just say whatever comes to mind and talk about our grief openly without feeling like, you know, like totally unhinged or just like, you know, like a burden, you know, so-called burden or just like annoying. You don't want to like be the burden. You don't want to be that person carrying that all the time. But here, we're all carrying it.
Yes. Here is like the ultimate safe space.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, I hope that all of our listeners and followers also feel that way in our safe space community.
Right. Because we want everybody to feel just as included in this as possible. That's why we have our Facebook group, and that's why we have an inclusive Instagram where we have the Feature Your Loved One. You guys need to get on that because it's a great way to honor your loved one. I mean, I get it if you don't really want to, it's too soon, or it's just hard. It's definitely a hard thing to like go through pictures and try to come up with the perfect words, but it doesn't have to be perfect because you know what? Nothing will ever do that person justice. Yeah. You know, it's just really hard to like embody a whole person in a whole in just one singular post.
Totally.
But do what you can, and if you can, submit your person.
Yeah, some people have said that, you know, although they were like hesitant at first, seeing their name like publicly on Instagram with their photo like is something that they maybe hadn't seen in a while. And you know, of course, as hard as it is, it was also like refreshing. Yeah. Do you remember like the adjective that person used when they messaged
I don't remember what the
but you know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember the word, but they pretty much said exactly what you said. It was just like has been a while. Once after the first year, I feel like people just like stopped talking about them all the time and without being like, oh, here she goes again, you know?
I know,
Which sucks because like,
I know, right? I feel like sometimes when I start talking about my grief, like in not our safe space, or like with, you know, my immediate family, like other than that, when I talk about it, like if it's with other people, I kind of get this sense of like, oh, it's like been a year, so like they're probably like kind of tired of hearing about it in a way. I don't know.
But we're tired of I totally feel that way. Even like my year is gonna be actually on this podcast is gonna be released on the day of my my dad's 1 year anniversary of his passing. So I just want to give that a quick shout out. You know, it's gonna be a hard day, so yeah. Pray for me, guys. Just kidding.
Honestly, though, it's true. Like, we'll have, like, an anniversary/holidays episode, especially because, like, Mother's and Father's Day is coming up and all that stuff. But,
birthdays and just death anniversaries, all of that. Even just, like, big occasions, small occasions, like we always talk about, it's all about small moments, too. It just makes it so hard sometimes. I mean, all the time. But what were you talking about? Oh yeah, you were saying
like how when I'm with other people, right? Then I'm like, okay,
like we're tiring them out with our grief. And I feel that way with our podcast too. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie because, you know, every week we have an episode, and so some of my friends, I feel like. They listened to like the first 3 or 4.
After like episode 5, I was like, you guys, like, if y'all are tuning in every single week, like, honestly, good for you. You're a real one because like it's hard for me to even listen back. Yeah.
And honestly, at first I did have a whole lot of resentment, and we're going to be talking about resentment in this episode, so I'm going to start with this right now, is I had a lot of resentment and anger towards, like, some of my best friends that, like, I knew weren't listening to this podcast. But now I'm just kind of like, yeah, it's a lot. But I
mean, in the beginning, of course, we wanted support.
Right,
and, like, now, like, we're episode 10. We're in, like, the depths.
Yeah.
And
so it's not, like, so much, like...
Yeah.
In the beginning, you know, we're starting off and we need people to, like... We needed, like, our support systems to kind of, like, hype us up a little bit because we were feeling like, you know, what are we doing this for? But now we have, I feel like, established a little bit more of a community. And, you know, we have our listeners and people who really have, like, expressed what this podcast has done for them in their own journey. So I feel like that's enough for me to feel like this is worth it.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't need, like, people...
It's also because, like, in the beginning, our first episode was about just us telling our stories to kind of, like, set the scene for, like, the rest of the podcast episodes. And, like, that is what we needed the most support on because it was quite literally the most vulnerable episode. I mean, like, the other ones are very vulnerable, but that one was, like, directly...
Yeah, everything. That one was, like, airing it all out.
Yeah, it was basically airing it all out. And it also has, like, the most views, like, by far. Right. And I'm like, damn, y'all are just listening to this episode and trying to, like, they got the details that they wanted to, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
But, yeah, now leading into the resentment and anger, we'll be talking about that in this episode. You know, I did mention about how I had resentment for people in my really close friends who, like, didn't listen to this podcast. Even my own family, honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. But at the end of the day, like, that kind of, like, faded away from me. And also that goes into how some people, like, aren't able to, like, show up for you in your grief and, like, give you the support that you need. And you also, like, really don't know how to verbalize what you need. So that anger for that person, like, that's trying to support you is, like... adds a lot to the grief, too. And that's not just the only type of anger.
So, yeah, obviously we're talking about anger and resentment this episode, and it's definitely one that we've been putting off. So, I guess, you know, episode 10, we want to do something special, but instead of doing something, like, fun and special, like... we're just getting through it with some of the hardest things to talk about. Yeah. Which is how much anger you have when you experience grief. Because, you know, people think of grief like, oh, they're sad, depressed, they're, you know, isolation, like whatever, all this stuff. Yeah. But, like, they don't think about the other things, the anger, the resentment, and this is, like, broad. It could be anger towards anything. It's not just like, oh, I'm so mad this person's died. Like, no, it is so many different things. Like anger, guilt, like it just goes, the list really goes on. So today we're just talking about anger, and we'll talk about some of the other things, you know, in future episodes. Right. Anger is such a huge aspect of grief, and I feel like it's not talked about as much because, like, everyone kind of is under the expectation that anger equals not good, and like you want to like push it down and stuff, you know, because like
anger is like a negative emotion.
Yeah, but which, like, I understand that because of course, like, when you're angry, you're not, you know, in the best mood, but at the end of the day, like, I think it's a emotion just like any other emotion that you have. And it needs to be, like, honored and recognized.
Yeah, and emotions are just a response to something. And being angry is just a response to feeling like something is unjust or, like, something was wrong and not fair. Which we can all agree upon is not fair, this whole situation.
Exactly. The loss of your person was unfair, so a normal response to that is anger. Right. You know, you want, like, justice for that. And a lot of the time... you don't get it, or pretty much all the time, because, you know, nothing brings back the person. Right. That's the only, like...
yeah, that's the only thing that's going to justify or bring justice to the situation.
Exactly. But, yeah, I mean, like, also another reason, like, anger comes out is if you're, like, feeling fearful of something. And this could also happen to, like, other people who are, like, the grief bystanders or the grief allies, as Michelle likes to call it.
Shout out Michelle from the Michelle and Lucy podcast.
Yeah, and I love that term, by the way, grief allies. It really just refers to the people who are not necessarily experiencing the grief, but are, like, on your side and, you know, trying to practice as much empathy as they can with you. which obviously is hard.
Very.
But yeah, like these people who are kind of more on the outside of grief, like a lot of times they'll see something that happened to you, and what happened to you is really catastrophic, right? It's really like horrible, and like other people don't want that to happen to them, you know? Like I'm sure, and I felt it too, like people look at me and I'm like, I know that everyone's just so glad they're not me right now, you know? You guys are happy with your 2 parents or whatever, and you have a whole family, like whatever. I don't have that, and my mom literally tragically died. And of course you're happy you're not me, right? But like other people will kind of like project that fear that they have because they know that life is uncontrollable. So it's like, oh, like it's really crazy that a car accident happened, right? And it's really crazy that somebody got diagnosed with cancer, and they know that, you know, they can't control those things not to happen to them in their life.
Right.
So instead of being like, that's horrible and like, I'm so sorry and this is such an inexplainable, tragic event, they're like, oh, well, that's never going to happen to me. Like, that's why I drive safe on the highways, and that's why I always make sure that people are buckled up, or whatever it is. You know, some type of projection where it's like they're trying to distance themselves because they are fearful. So, like, that is a lot of built up anger.
Yeah.
Like, it comes out as anger a lot of the time, too.
Yeah, they're like, why did they take that road, or like why didn't they eat healthy, and why didn't they take care of their bodies the way like you should? Okay, but like some of these things,
exactly, it's like oh well, they didn't eat enough veggies, so that's why they died, or you know, like it's so many. It just depends.
That
obviously
comes out as anger, but that also invites anger.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. It makes me angry, but it also, the people who are doing it is them being
projecting anger
from fear.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right. So first we're going to break this down, anger, into 3 different categories. So first we're going to talk about like the general anger at the situation, at what just happened, anger at the world, the universe for taking our person away, just like angry overall at the whole situation. Then we're going to talk about anger towards others and how they weren't able to show up, or how we felt like, I don't know, just the ways they came through to us, for us, and like, And then finally, we're going to be talking about anger towards yourself. And we'll talk about more of these later on.
The 3 pillars of anger and grief. General, anger towards others, and anger towards yourself.
Exactly.
So let's start with general anger.
All
Even though we already started for 15 minutes probably. Okay. All right, let's get into it. So, like the obvious one is when you're angry at some situation that contributed to the death of your person.
Right.
For me, that would be like the highway system. I fucking hate the highway system. I will go on hours and hours about how the U.S. is like the #1 country with vehicular deaths. How they literally make cars, when they do the safety like tests, they do it for like an average man.
Oh yeah.
Like the weight and height distributions and stuff for safety in the cars when they're making the cars, like they don't take into like, I mean, it's obviously hard, like you're trying to get the average person, but they do it more of like like I've seen so many studies about this, guys, and it infuriates me.
Yeah,
okay? This is like this anger that I have towards the U.S. and their highway system, because we're the main country who uses cars as our main transportation. Like we don't use public transit as much as, you know, countries in Europe or you know, mostly anywhere.
It's the way our cities are built. Is like we need,
which is fucked up, and I hate
no
it.
other country has this thing where you're like 16 and you like get a car.
Exactly.
Like, you know.
Exactly. And
like it's like a normal thing.
It's just so backwards, and it really does infuriate me. Like before this, I was not fucking dying on that hill. I was like, yeah, whatever. Obviously, I like the public transport in places like Europe, but like whatever. I also like having a car. But now, it has brought me to this level of anger towards the way our cities are built in the U.S., and it literally directly contributes to so many problems in our society. Right. One of them being deaths caused by car accidents and trucks and highways.
Right.
So, like, I'm angry at that situation, that it even had to be that way. And some people can kind of put that into, like, maybe they'll become, like, more politically involved and, like, try and get legislation to, like, change that and stuff. I'm not particularly like that. But, like, I mean, I'd be on board. Yeah. But, like, I don't know if I would, like, be able to spearhead that. You know what I'm saying? But, yeah, it's just, like, a general sense of, like, I guess it could also be kind of, like, I'm blaming that. But it is. Like, I think it is that.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely plays a role. And also, I don't know, I feel like my anger comes from, like, the U.S. health system. I'm not here to, like, I mean, no, I'm here to say that because...
Yes.
And because, you know what, a lot of it is about, it's not preventative. It's about what we can do after, like, you know, how we can treat.
That's so true.
And it's just another way for the U.S. to make more money because when you have the illness and you have to get treated for it, you know, that costs so much more money than if you were to just, like, prevent the illness from happening in the first place, because then you wouldn't have people in the hospitals, you wouldn't have to pay for medical bills, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so, 100%.
I mean, we need to focus, I feel like our country needs to focus more on preventative things, health practices that we can do to prevent these, like, terrible illnesses instead of, like, focusing on a fucking cure. Because, I mean, yeah, a cure is great too, but also, like, we need to talk about what we can do
preventative
to prevent that shit.
Like, I think it also plays into, like, American, like, standard diet, like, is, like, much different than the rest of the world. Like, of course, that plays into our health. Like, our food is literally our fuel for us being alive. So, like, of course, if our food system is fucked up and corrupt.
Oh, yeah.
When our food system is corrupt, it contributes to that. And you're right. It's like you have anger towards the way things are.
Mm-hmm. Another one, angry at the world, the universe for allowing this to happen.
Yes.
That one is kind of like, who do we even get? There's no specific person, you know? It's just like a general anger that this fucking happened to you, to your person.
Exactly.
And
it's like, why me?
Mm-hmm.
And why them?
Why
them? Why me? Why my family? Like, why this?
Yeah.
Why now? I mean,
and that one sucks because there's no
you're just fucking
one to be mad at.
Exactly. Exactly. That's why it falls under general, because it's just like, I'm just overall pissed, and I'm so pissed that this is happening. Mm-hmm. I'm so angry that this is happening. Like, why is this happening?
Yeah. It's like,
and I remember being super mad at, like, even though last episode was literally spirituality, or was that 2 episodes ago?
2 episodes ago.
Okay, 2 episodes ago was literally spirituality, and, like, yeah, there's, like, certain things that I like about it, but at that point, when my mom had just passed, I was so fucking mad at the spirituality world. Yeah. I did not want anything to fucking do with that shit. I was so mad because it was like, oh, good things are coming your way, blah, blah, blah. No, fuck that. Literally, my fucking life just ended.
Yeah.
My mom's life literally just ended, and, like, this is just... Again, unjust. It's unfair, so that brings a shitload of anger.
Right.
And there's no explaining why this happened. So you just have to be fucking pissed.
Yep.
But, like, it's not just like, oh, I'm mad. Like, no, this anger consumes you.
Yeah.
And that's, like, really, really difficult because you have to still, like, live your daily life. And that's literally, like, one of the hardest parts about having all this anger.
Yeah. Definitely, I feel like the anger you feel is a lot more intense, or, like, just more because of the way your situation was. It was, like, not a controllable situation that just, you know, it was a very sudden death situation. For me, it was, like, cancer, so it was, like, you know, it was more, like, kind of, like, angry that he got cancer, but also I wasn't angry that he passed, because at that point, it's, like, you know, I don't know how else to say.
That definitely makes sense, yeah, for sure. And then also, like, I feel like it's really... I also feel like anger builds when you watch other people, like, not care as much as you want them to, or move on a little bit too fast, or... also, you know, like I always say, the world keeps spinning while yours just stopped. So that also brings up a lot of anger. Because you're like, how am I supposed to continue? And it's like, why the fuck does everyone else just keep living their life and I can't?
Yeah. I think I talked about this in, like, I mean, definitely in the past, where it really pissed me off to see everybody, like, living their lives. Like, when my friend sent me a Snapchat of her getting a new job, I was like, bitch, this is so insensitive right now. I don't want to see you living your life.
Yes.
I don't care.
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, we'll talk about more of that in a second, because that's anger towards others.
True,
but no, yeah. I have more to say about that for sure.
Yeah.
But let me jump back to the spirituality thing really quick, because I found this thing called the Emotional Vibration Analysis Frequency Chart. That is just some random thing that I literally saw on Instagram, okay? And this is like tied back into how I was annoyed with spirituality. Yeah. Because it's like, oh, you know, spirituality is all about like enlightenment, how you can raise your vibration, you know, be like a high vibrational human, and like, you know, rid yourself of like the shame and the guilt you have, or like your trauma, and just you know that's like kind of how it wants you to be. Right. And for me, I was like, yeah, like that's great. Let's do this like work for my trauma. Okay, no. After my mom died, though, I was literally rejecting all that, because I was like, fuck that. The universe does not have my best interest at heart. Why the fuck did this happen to me? Right. And then I saw this fucking chart on Instagram, and it literally has like a number chart. Like it starts all the way at like 700 plus, and then goes all the way down to 20. And at the bottom is like guilt, shame, and grief is literally at the last 4. Okay, it's like the lowest possible vibration you can have. And then at the top is enlightenment. So like
peace, joy, love.
Yeah, like all the things that I want to feel, like peace, joy, and love are all at the top. But I'm like in the like midst of grief, so I'm literally at the so I'm just like scrolling on Instagram, like trying to, you know, maybe just get my mind off things. Right. And then I see this, and I'm like, great, now I can't even reach enlightenment because I literally have so much grief. And I guess
I'm a low vibrational person.
Guess I'm literally gonna be lower. I was so pissed off. I was like, I guess I'm gonna be just fucking low vibrational all the time, because I'm not gonna stop fucking grieving. Yeah. And I'm gonna be in grief, so I'm never gonna be able to reach in peace, joy, and love. I know. And I
think this chart is like so stupid, because how can anyone be feeling those emotions all the time? You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm gonna edit this chart in the video. So if you guys are watching the video, you'll see this chart that we're talking about, because I need you guys to see. It's a damn cone.
Literally, like, what is this? I'm sorry. It's literally like red at the bottom too. Like, it's like, okay.
And also anger is at the bottom too, if you're wondering, which is great, because anger comes with guilt, fear comes with guilt too, and those are all at the bottom. Oh, and guilt. Guilt is number 2 at the bottom, and we'll be talking about that in this part 2 of this episode.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I'm so angry, because I want to be like this carefree, like, you know.
Yeah, just like a person, like loving person, exuding confidence.
Exactly. No, I'm literally
Mother
the opposite
Teresa.
of that. Exactly. And then I'm like, oh, I'll never reach that now, because I literally I'm at the bottom. I'm literally at the bottom of the cone.
I feel like, you know what's more realistic is that you might have some high vibrational things too, but you also, you know, we're balanced out. Exactly. We have neutrality. We're balanced out by these negative things that we feel too, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like enlightenment is 700, and then you minus 75, so you're at 625 technically.
Let's go, 625. Okay, where's it? Okay, I'm literally so close to enlightenment. Okay, you know what? That makes me feel better.
Yeah, I feel like
that's true though. It does even out. Like, that's a really good point. That's a good point. But still, I was so mad. I'm like, fuck that shit. Like. Yeah. Really?
Like, that's just like a terrible.
Guess I'm just so not gonna. I'll just not grieve.
Let me just push my shit.
What? Like, exactly. I remember writing some hate comments. That's like what those kind
of posts make you want to do. It's like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this guilt or grief. You know, this like, anger. I gotta let go. People always want to say, let go of that grief, let go of that anger. You know what? You know what's more detrimental to your health is like not allowing yourself to feel these things and then bottling it up and exploding out of nowhere.
Because they say let go, but what they really mean is stop talking about it, and
stop making me uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it's like, you need to let that go. It's like, okay, so you're just tired of hearing about it, but that doesn't mean I'm done dealing with it.
Yeah,
at least you have to deal with it. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So that was actually one of my main points, which is like, you have to deal with this anger, just like you have to deal with the grief. Like, it's really hard to bottle it up, and you know, like, it's almost impossible. So like, it's just another emotion that you have to deal with, and you have to put it into something. Like, whether it's screaming, fucking writing, fucking, I don't know.
You gotta find an outlet. Working out, you know, that's a great one that people do. Just music. We always talk about these outlets that you have, and this doesn't have to be just for anger. It could just be for like, your emotions in general, your guilt, your grief, all of it. You have an outlet, you do it, and anger is part of that too. Like, you know, whatever you do to release your emotional like build up and like you got to get it out somehow. Like, keep doing that for you, because it's so healthy to have an outlet, and you need it.
For sure.
Because you can't just hold it in.
You can't.
I mean, not to say that you can't feel that way. What you're feeling is completely valid, but just to hold it in and, like, let your whole body feel it. Because you know what they say is, like, when you have an emotion and you're feeling it, like, your muscles, like, you know when you get a massage, you're like, oh, you're holding this anger right here in your shoulders. Like, you know? Like, I feel this knot from all this anger. Yeah.
It's true. No, it's true,
It's true, though. Yeah. Your body, like, holds all those emotions in, so having those outlets is, like, really good. And so you're not taking it out on your own body.
Now I want a massage after you said that.
Yeah, we should get one after
Honestly, that sounds amazing. All right, so moving into the next one. Anger towards others. This is hard because a lot of people say insensitive things. They do insensitive things. They let you down. And sometimes it's well-meaning, and sometimes they purposely do it to kick you while you're down. Yeah,
and like we always say, sometimes, like, good intentions are not enough, you know? And as well-intended as you may be, like, you came across insensitive, and that's gonna hurt. Yeah. And that's gonna cause a little bit of anger because you're like...
Right.
Really?
And, you know, sometimes, like, when people say insensitive things, I try to give them a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. I'm like, well, of course they didn't mean it like that. But at the end of the day, I always find myself wishing that people would have thought before they spoke or thought before they acted. And I'm like, it only took like 2 seconds to think maybe I shouldn't say that to you right now because you just lost your dad to cancer. Or maybe I shouldn't complain about my mom during the whole lunch when you just lost your mom. Yeah. You know, like, it was just some small things that added to this, like, overall. I'm like, this is just annoying, and it adds to your anger.
I feel that, yeah. But some people, you know, they speak and then they realize after. Yeah. But some people don't even realize after. They don't catch themselves. Yeah, and, like, some people aren't self-aware. And I feel like I really do appreciate when people accidentally say something, they're like, ooh, like, what? I'm sorry if that was, like, you know.
At least you caught yourself.
Yeah, I do appreciate that because I'm like, you took the time to, like, think about how that might have, you know, been received the wrong way, and that means that you care, you know.
Exactly.
You said something insensitive, but you made up for it by catching it.
Yeah, honestly, I think that does make up for it. Yeah. Because they, like, are being self-aware. I'm like, okay, at least you're being self-aware.
Exactly. Some people are completely unaware at all.
And no, that really
insensitive
is
and
so
not caring and aren't aware at all. And they just continue to ramble about some shit that, you know, and just like, dude.
It's true. Like, I want other people to be able to, like, let's say with my friend is complaining about their mom.
Yes.
And I'm like, you know, I'm trying to be validating because they have the right to complain about what they want to complain about. Like, to me, is this the best person to complain about their mom to? Like, I don't really think so.
Right.
So I do think that maybe the choice could have been more empathetic.
I mean, if that maybe the situation happened, like, right before you guys met up, and that's why she had to, like, get it off her chest right away, but still, like, take that 2 seconds to think about
just
who you're complaining to about the situation.
And I do feel bad because I'm like, you know, I still want to hear about my friend's issues, but, like, there are some things that, like, you just need to talk to somebody else about.
Yeah.
At this point now in our friendship, in my grief, like...
And that doesn't mean you're not a good friend or that, like, they're not a good friend, but it's just, like... You know, we don't need to... I don't need to be the one supporting you through your issues with your mom right now.
Exactly.
You know?
Especially, like, at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, a very early point in grief.
Yeah, so I think that leads into, like, feeling angry when people take their... Well, for me, like, my dad, and then for her, like, their mom. Your parents in general, like, taking them for granted, complaining about them. You know, we know you have the right to do that because everybody has their issues, but it's also just, like, I wish I had things to... You know, when my dad was still alive, I was complaining about how annoying he was when he, like, did blah, 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 blah. Or, like, you know, but now looking back, I'm like, damn, like, you know, it's just, like, that... level of disconnect there.
It's true. Like, I want to be, like, whenever anyone talks about their mom, like, I want to be happy for them, but it's always just, like, a fucking stab to the heart, like, no matter what. So, like, I'm not even necessarily saying, like, don't talk about your mom at all with me. I'm saying, like, don't complain. Like, don't say, like, negative things, because, like, at the end of the day, my response is always going to be, like, none of that shit fucking matters anymore, dude. Like, you need to love your mom because she's gonna be gone in a blink of an eye.
Right, that's exactly our perspective now. It's like, this petty ass bullshit you're complaining about, what she fucking did your laundry and then put a red sock in, now your clothes are pink. Who the fuck cares? Like, you know?
Yeah.
Why she even do your laundry for you? You're fucking grown. Okay. I don't know who I'm talking about. This is just the hypothetical.
Yeah, this is hypothetical. Okay, we're not going in on anyone.
Anyway, another thing that people get mad about. Oh yeah, this is kind of goes into like what I was saying earlier about how people show up for you in ways that aren't received well for yourself, or they don't show up for you at all, you know? Mm-hmm. They try their best to like be this person and like try to their best to, you know, do certain things and be there for you as much as they can, but a lot of the times it's like, one, not enough, or two, not what you need.
Yeah.
But also at the same time for you, like, you don't know what the fuck you need. It really leads to such a contentment in relationships because you're just like, first of all, I don't know how to verbalize what I need because I don't know what I need, and I don't know. That's so much energy, you know, that you don't have to like, delegate tasks and tell people like what you need.
You don't even know what you need.
All you know is what you don't want, and you only know that when it happens. And you're like, ooh.
It's true. So it's like a level of like, we're not trying to sit here and blame the people who make us feel that way.
Yeah.
Honestly, we're not talking to you guys. Like, we're talking to the grievers today because we have other episodes where we're talking to, like, the grief allies.
Yeah.
But, like, at this point, with anger, like, we're validating all that shit. Because people fucking say insensitive things. They should have thought before they spoke. They should have tried to be more empathetic.
Yeah.
And, like, they should not have done bad things to you. Like, they should have done a lot of things that they didn't do.
Yeah.
You know? And, like, again, it's unfair, so you're angry about it.
Yeah.
It's unfair how people treated me. It's unfair how I was fucking treated after. It was so many things that I felt was, like, so unjust. And it felt like my character was being attacked. And I wanted, like, my friends to be there and support me and, like, lift me up at a time where I was literally in the middle of digging my mom's grave. Mm-hmm. Those types of things you're of course gonna have like anger about because
of course
it's just
so much resentment and anger.
And it's gonna have to be dealt with at some point. Like, I'm not sitting here like saying I have no more anger left. Like, that's definitely not true, but like I've had to consciously, when I'm feeling angry towards people who have done things, and like it's a long list. Literally, I'm like, okay, these feelings of anger are coming up towards this person. And I've already told this person how I felt. You know, I sent them a message on Facebook. And I have to deal with that. Yeah. Okay? So I'm getting the feelings of anger, I'm recognizing it, I'm honoring it, and I'm kind of pushing it out the door. Okay, it might come back in the door later on or in the future, but like at that point, like I can't let it ruin my whole day and like ruin like just my brain. Like, you know, it's gonna sit there in my brain, like on the forefront of my brain. Like, no, I'm trying to like recognize it and then push it back because I'm like, or not push it back, push it to the side. Yeah. Okay, it's like revolving sushi. You know, you're like, picked it up, and I'm like, okay, and then I put it back when I'm done. Okay, so at the end of the day, all I'm trying to say is that the anger has to be recognized, and then you have to try to make amends with it. Right. And I'm not saying that you're going to, but like you do have to recognize it and honor it in some way, which is just like, okay, I'm feeling angry because blank, blank, and blank, and it's valid, and then try and move on, like, from that anger, because it's just only hurting yourself. Right. And I'm talking specifically when it's anger towards others, because when you're angry towards others, it's valid, but you're only hurting yourself by continuing staying angry. Right. So after you make amends with that person or the situation, like, you have to close the door and move on.
Yeah, because you already have enough other fucking shit to, like, focus on and feel sad and angry about. Like, we cannot add more people onto our plate. You know, we can be angry at the universe. I'm not saying you can't be angry at these other people. If you haven't made amends, like, feel free, be angry. But if you have done everything you can to try to resolve the situation, or it was just like, you know, it's like old news now, like something that happened 6 months ago and still sits wrong with you, you know, you're entitled to feel that way because it may have really hurt you. Yes. And, like, you're entitled to feel that anger. But also, you know, you have to recognize that holding on to that anger and resentment is like...
What is it doing for you?
Exactly. It's just... It's not, you know...
What does it really do? What really is that holding on to the anger towards that person doing for you? It's really just recognizing that something was fucked up. Yeah. Somebody treated you unfairly. somebody hurt your feelings. So if you let that go, it's like, oh, well, you don't care? No. Like, of course you still care, but at the end of the day, the only thing holding on to that anger does for you is you're recognizing the pain that it caused and how that it was unjust. But, like, there's no reason to continue that all the fucking time.
Yeah.
For 6 months, you're holding on to this feeling of being, like, angry and betrayed.
And, like, reliving that pain all the time.
Yeah, that this person caused you. So it's like, like, it's impossible to hold on to it forever because it would just be detrimental to yourself.
It's like what they say. What do they say? It's like drinking poison and hoping that you're killing someone else with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's like you're swallowing that poison.
Exactly. And again, we're talking about when you're angry at somebody specific, not
and also
I'm not saying like close the door and stop being angry about your parent being dead. No.
And then also just want to say disclaimer, like all this shit is so much easier said than done.
Oh yeah.
So much easier said than done, and also we're not on the other side of this. We're some of us are still holding on to some anger,
of course.
And we're still working through it too. So if you aren't at that point yet,
that's
we're
totally
with you,
okay, yeah.
But, we're going to get there someday.
Yeah, it literally took me forever to learn that lesson that I really just can't hold on to it.
Yeah.
And I'm still having to remind myself of that lesson.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I'm at, too.
Mm-hmm. Also, another thing to do with that is, like, when you feel angry, and actually we've talked about this because I remember you said something funny.
Yeah.
Because you were like, yeah, like, I see people walking in the street, and you're like, no, like, fuck off. Like, why do you get to be alive, and my mom's not alive? Like, oh, like, yesterday I was on the treadmill at the gym, and literally this girl, like, my age, maybe a little bit older than me, is, like, obviously with her mom, showing her mom around the gym that she goes to, because her mom's, like, visiting, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, for a second, I was like, my mom would love this gym. Like, I'm going to bring my mom to this gym. Like, for a split second, I was like, that's so cute. And then I was like, fuck that person. Like, what the fuck? Like, fuck, I'm pissed. And, like, yes, it's, like, a general piss, but I'm also just directing it at this person for this, like, for this example, because I'm literally, like, watching her be like, yeah, mom, like, this is so cute. Like, this is how you work this machine. And I'm like, oh, my God. Like, I'm so fucking pissed off right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? Yeah. Why do these people get to have this nice mother-daughter relationship, and I will never get a chance to have that ever again in my life?
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like, fucking pissing me off.
Yeah, Michelle Zauner from Japanese Breakfast, she has that book, Crying in H Mart, that we've mentioned a few times. But she talks about how it's, like, this really, like, kind of seems, like, unjust and, like, no reason for, like, our resentment towards, like, these random people.
Yeah.
Like, she talks about being in H Mart and seeing, like, families, like grandmas, 3 generations, a kid, a mom, a grandma, all sitting together eating dinner and just feeling like fucking angry that they're able to do that, like enjoying their random lunch at this H Mart food court. That's exactly what it is. It's like a slap in the face every single time you see like fucking families together with their mom and their dad. That's how it felt to me working Father's Day. We'll talk about more like gifts. I mean, not gifts. We'll talk more about holidays and stuff in general, but it was just like so much anger and also really obviously just sad, but a lot of anger and resentment. And it was like totally like these people didn't do anything to me. They were really nice to me, if anything. But at the end of the day, like it's just fucking hurtful to see.
Exactly. It's not like directly actually you're pissed at them.
Yeah.
But they're like a representation of everything you don't have. And
we're projecting it on them for now. Yeah. And we most of the time like it's
I'm not like mistreating these people.
No,
in
exactly.
public.
Most of the time like the projection isn't ever like it stays in our head.
Not like, it's like, fuck you, like, you're not, like, yelling at them or something.
We're not, like, the projection stays in your head.
We're not, like, yelling at waiters or,
exactly.
like, postmen. Like,
and the projection really just stays in our head. It's not, like, ever, like, leading to a confrontation with these people.
If it does lead to a confrontation for you, go off. Like, honestly, I'm not gonna say that you shouldn't have done that if you feel like you should make amends after you did that, but, like, if it's not, like, if it's just, like, someone, you know, like, you meet, like, on the street, like, let's say the mailman, like, maybe you're a little mad that the mailman was doing something that triggered you. You might have to see that mailman again.
Wait, who's this mailman you're talking about? Is this a personal situation?
No, it's not a personal situation. The mailman never did anything to me. I'm just saying, like, somebody who's gonna be reoccurring back into your life, like, you really can't, like, like, you're gonna have to, like, kind of own up to that.
Yeah, because you're gonna see him again.
If you do have this outwardly, like, anger, like, that
outburst,
you, like, project on someone else.
Right.
If it's, like, your waiter that you'll never see again, like, you won't have to deal with it later on.
True, yeah.
If it's, like, your mailman, he's gonna come back next Tuesday.
All right, and you're gonna have to say sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry for that. You caught me in a bad moment. Yeah, and then also blaming others. That kind of leads into blaming others, even though it's really
blaming others, what I meant is, like...
Okay.
Blaming others as in, like, when there's somebody else to blame for the death.
Oh.
Like for me, like, for you can't, nobody, like, put a spell on your dad.
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, blaming others, like, when there's actually someone to blame. Like, this is more like when, like, tragic things happen, you know? Like, it's somebody's fault. Like, I'm thinking of recently a amusement park, like, got shut down because one of the rides, like, malfunctioned, I guess. Damn. Something happened, and somebody passed away from it very tragically. Damn. So you start blaming who didn't do this, who didn't do that, who manufactured it, all this stuff.
Right.
So you have a lot of anger towards those people.
Yeah. That also reminds me of the whole incident at Astroworld where, like, 6 people passed away, and... You know,
more than that, I think.
Yeah, oh, maybe like 10.
Yeah, it was really.
It was a lot of people, and, like, Travis is trying to, like, neglect this blame and responsibility. But at the end of the day, who put on the show? Who was in charge of security at that venue? Exactly.
Who
was making sure that all these people are safe? Like, you know,
you have so much anger because you're trying to blame, like, who is at fault for this death? Yeah. And then there's a lot of anger that comes up with all of that. And obviously, because we live in America, I have to mention this, but, like, shootings, like, all the fucking time. I mean, like, shootings, literally all the time.
And just shootings in general.
There's a direct person to blame for that death. It was like a murder. So there's somebody directly to place all your anger on. Yeah. And oh my God, is it freaking all consuming anger. And, like, for me, like, I had certain people I could potentially be angry about, like the person who caused the car accident that made my parents, you know, swerve off and stuff. There's people that I blame for that. Right. And there's anger that I hold for those people. Right. For that person.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah. It's like putting a face to the whole situation and having, like, a person to, like, blame is, like, something unimaginable for me because cancer doesn't have a face. Right. And it's just, like, a dark cloud that takes over.
Exactly. It is exactly that. It's giving all your anger towards a specific person because you're blaming them for the death. It is their fault.
Finally, the toughest one, maybe, anger towards yourself. Man, that one's, like, really hard for me because I'm, like, angry for being sad or, like, just being different from who I was before the loss, and, like, angry that, like, especially in early grief, like, where it was, like, taking up so much of my day and, like, taking away so much of my motivation and my ability to, like, do anything, continue on, my vitality for life, like, all of it. I was so angry at the world, but also myself, because I was like, why, you know, people always say, like, oh, your dad would have wanted you to be happy, and that is comforting, but I'm also, like, hearing that makes me mad at myself, because I'm like, my dad would have wanted me angry, get the fuck up and be happy, but it's so hard.
I know, right? Yeah, it's true. It's like, you're right, they would want me to be happy, but I'm like, I want to be happy, but, like, I can't, like, I literally have this debilitating anxiety.
Yeah, literally. And, like, those kind of phrases led to me feeling angry. Obviously, they were well intended, but it just made me angry, not at the person, but literally at myself, because I was like, yeah, you're right. Why can't I just be happy? And why can't I just enjoy this in the present as it is and not think about, I wish my dad were here to live this moment with me. Like, you know, and there's, like, all these feelings, including, like, just feeling like there's more you could be doing. I don't know. I feel like we do so much. Both of us. We do so much, and at the end of the day, I still lay in bed thinking that I could be doing more. And it's like, give yourself a damn break. Like, you know?
That's so true.
Like, I really need to lighten up on myself, and I'm only talking to myself right now. Yeah. You know, it's so much harder. You can't say that to other people. Like, you know, sometimes, like, it's just, it's hard to say that to someone else because you don't know what their position is. But from my situation, I can say I'm way too hard on myself. I have these expectations of myself, probably because I want to make my dad proud and, like, you know, live up to, like, a certain thing that people have expected of me because of him and, like, all these things. And I constantly feel like I'm letting that all down, even though I'm probably doing everything that I could be doing right now. And actually, not probably, I am. Yeah, I really am.
Yeah, you really are. I'm like, damn, how much more? We literally.
How much more can I be doing right now?
How much more?
You know?
I mean, like, what else could I even really be? I mean, like, okay, I could be doing some things, I guess. But it's like, okay, like, I can't, have a podcast and run a community and run an Instagram and a Facebook page. Yeah. And also do my journaling. Yeah. And, like, go to therapy. Like, you know what I'm saying?
And get a job 9 to 5 and work on your creative outlets and manage time with your friends.
And make content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a lot. Yeah, it's a lot.
I know, that's so true. Like, you're right. And, like, when I was in Spain a couple months ago, I was so debilitated by my anxiety. Probably the worst I've ever been debilitated because I felt like I didn't even want to leave the house. And I never feel that way. Yeah. And I did not want to leave my hotel at all. And I was, like, really mad at myself because I wanted to, but I was so anxious and just so out of character. It was just so out of character for me. But it was also in character of grief to be feeling that way. Because at the end of the day, it was the grief that led me to have such horrible anxiety. But, like, I knew that my mom would want me to, like, have fun and, like, like, you know. But it's, like, somehow this anxiety that I felt when I was there was tied to the grief. And, like, I don't really understand how. Yeah. Because I wasn't, like, sitting there crying that my mom was dead. Like, I really was not sad about that in that moment while I was there. I was trying to be in the moment and have a good time with my freaking friends and, you know, go out and do all the things that you do when you're in a different country. But, like, I literally couldn't. And I, like, lost my appetite. Like, it was really bad. And I, to this day, am so fucking pissed that I could not talk myself out of it or control it in that way because I was so debilitated. I felt like I wasted the money on the trip. The trip was, like, ruined. I didn't embrace it. I wasn't able to be present. Like, it just, I was really, really mad at myself. Yeah. But, like, I know that there was really nothing I could have done. Exactly. I tried every fucking trick that I have, you know? Like, I literally tried to be meditating. I, like, was taking, like, not, like, pills, but, like, this, like, naturopathic, like, I was fucking smelling some essential oils. Like, I was really trying everything except actually taking anxiety medication because I didn't have any at that point. Yeah. So, I did try, but nothing was helping.
Yeah, and I know, it's, like, so hard to, like, talk yourself out of that anger and, like, just all those negative feelings that are coming from, like, you feeling that way. You're like, why the fuck am I feeling that way? Like,
yeah, I was literally pissed off. Like, I was so mad. I'm like, I don't want to feel this way. Like, I was, like, looking at myself in the mirror, like, stop. Like, stop it. Yourself. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, stop. Like, you're literally in Madrid. You need to be, like, in the moment with your friends. Like, what are you doing? Like, what's wrong with you? And even still, like, I wanted it with all my heart for it to stop, but it still won't stop. So, like, what can you honestly do?
I know. I don't even know. Like, sometimes you do have to just, like, feel it and just, like, allow yourself to feel it. Don't gaslight yourself, like we always say, into feeling something else or feeling like you should be doing something else. But all we're saying is that anger is valid. We get what you're saying. We totally feel that way about our situation ourselves, too. Like, you know? And, like, it's all normal. And don't let people be like, oh, anger is a negative emotion. Because you know what? It can... Positive things can come out of it. You can be working out, letting yourself, you know...
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, letting yourself blow off steam in positive outlets. And then that could have a really positive effect on your body. You know, obviously not everybody is like a health freak or like a workout gym hoe, you know? But, you know, that's a great example of how this anger can fuel something positive. As an artist, a lot of times I feel like I am really inspired by only negative emotions. Like, I tend to really write songs about, like, feeling sad or, like, anger and, like, guilt and just, like, feeling sad. Like, most negative emotions. And I feel like that's also a great way to make that anger and negative emotions into something good. And that is not to say, like, you need to capitalize on this anger and, like, you need to, like, do something positive with it. You can also just be angry, and that's fine, too. So, yeah.
Definitely.
All right, guys. I think that is going to wrap things up for Anger and Resentment, episode 10. Anything else you want to add?
No, other than I know that I've heard some other people talk about how they have anger towards their person. Mm-hmm. And I forget if we really talked about it.
Oh, no, I don't think we did.
But I don't necessarily experience that. But if you do, that's also very valid.
Yeah.
And there could be a million reasons why. Mm-hmm. You know, it could just be this general, like, I'm so angry at you for leaving me.
Right.
You know, sometimes it was something out of their hands that they couldn't. But it is definitely valid if you have that.
Right. That's a good point, too. And it's, like, super hard to, like, because after they die, you don't want to be holding on to, you want to remember them in a good light, you know, as you just want to remember the good things about them. But sometimes, you know, people are people, and there's going to be good and bad to every person. So sometimes you're faced with, like, the reality or the truth, or just, like, the truth of, like, these negative emotions, too, which might include anger towards a person, or, you know, like, if you had, like, unresolved issues, or just anything of that sort.
So many different things.
Yeah, so many reasons. But yeah, that's completely valid too, that anger. And you don't have to, like, push that aside to remember them in a good light, you know. You don't have to do that. All right, well,
I think that wraps it up.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening, you guys, and staying with us through these past 10 episodes.
Oh my gosh.
And, yeah.
Yay, that was the 10th episode. We did it.
Yes, you know, be sure to follow us on Instagram, hit us on the YouTube, subscribe, and hit us on YouTube and subscribe.
Yeah, and we have our new Facebook page, guys. Right. It's very similar content to our Instagram, but if you have other people who maybe use Facebook more, definitely get on that.
It's a bit more personal too, because we're, like, talking directly to, like, each other and sharing more of our intimate stories and stuff. Yeah. And we don't really get into it too much on the podcast. I mean, we do a little bit, but, you know, definitely it's gonna be more of an intimate conversation.
So there's a Facebook page, and then there's a Facebook group.
Right.
The group is if you want to be, like, a community with us and with some other people. We have a good amount of members now, so we're really sharing just, like, our feelings, like a little diary, and then other people comment and support you. And then, And that's it, guys. Thank you. We'll be back next week. Bye, guys.